2013, 26 teams have graced the European LCS stage. Only 10 have advanced to finals. Fnatic, Alliance, and G2 Esports have all hoisted the trophy.
Home to some of the best players the world has ever seen, Europe has once again shown us that their pool of talent has no end.
Now the battle for the crown is closer than ever, with 6 teams fighting ferociously for the privilege of challenging the throne.
H2K are going to playoffs!
But that'll continue to solidify their dominance at the very top.
For the first time since 2015, Rocat's Talent Factory has forged a lineup worthy of playoffs. Meanwhile, H2K had to find and unlock their carries to make a surge in the standings.
Oh, Memento! You're beautiful, man! He stole it away! Who was gonna end the game? Rubicon's now, what is this? Oh my god! H2K, that is beautiful!
Team Vitality, the most exciting set of rookies ever, flew out of the gate behind the Italian stallion and God Gilius himself.
Caps is in trouble. Zuki looking for the outplay. Can he get it down to 1? Might just look for 2. He's feeling himself. I can hear him hollering on stage. He wants 1 more, and he's gonna get it!
After a static start, Splyce have found their footing. Now they are pressing onwards in the climb for the championship.
Covey shreds through you. He gets the quadra. Gonna be a penta for Covey.
And onto our reigning champions, G2 Esports, led by Perks, winning 4 consecutive titles.
But eyeing the throne are the old kings of Europe, who may have fallen from grace, but are back and ready to claim the trophy that was once theirs.
We have to win now. No way around that. We cannot wait any longer.
My legacy is not like even close to complete. I'm just starting it.
I want my legacy to be as a leader who brought Rocket to the finals.
G2 are the kings right now, but I've killed a king before.
2017 was my year of frustration, but that's changing this year. The greatest EU LCS moment still has to come, because it's gonna be when I win it.
Fame is fleeting.
Legacy lasts forever.
Welcome to Berlin, Germany, with some cosplay in the house, and the EU LCS Spring Playoffs on the road to Copenhagen continue today. After a tough start to the split, H2K have made it to the quarterfinals, but in their way are now the rookies of Vitality, led by God Gilius himself. Let's see who makes it to the semifinals. We'll be covering the action today. I'm EpicSkillshot supporter, joined here by Jonas Cold Anderson once again, as well as Aaron Medic Chamberlain.
Very nice to be here, Shocks. I'm looking forward to some great games.
Me too. Yesterday, already some great games. Unfortunately, only 3, because Splyce became the 3rd team to lock a spot in the semifinals. That also means we'll be seeing them in Copenhagen, be it in the 3rd place match, be it in the grand finals. And they continued their good form from the regular split, Cold. And a lot of people had pegged them as the winners, but a 3-0 and that clean was a bit of a surprise.
Yes, what a way to start off the quarterfinal. I think initially we knew that they were the favorites going into the game, but they were showing even more dominant play than we initially thought. And I think they're looking super scary in this playoffs, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next week.
Super scary, clean 3-0 yesterday. Why don't you run us through what happened on stage, Medic?
Well, I think there are 3 key things that we need to remember from yesterday. First off was Nisqy in Game 1. On Kassadin, he had an incredible performance in the mid lane, got 3 early kills and really snowballed the game away from Rocket. Ended the game 12-0-2, and his ability to roam around the map and actually impact the game is such a wide divergence from what he was doing through the rest of the split. Much of the time, he'd been someone the team had to play around. Here, he was the playmaker for the team, which is a great change for Splyce. Second up on my list of things we have to remember is Odo Omne's first playoff performance on a team other than H2K. He showed us why he's regarded as one of the best top laners in Europe over the last few years, and why he hit one of the all-pro teams as well. His Camille and his Sion were absolutely on point. His ability to get onto the backline when needed in teamfights was incredible. And I think we can definitely say that Odo, when you take him away from some of these tanks, can still do a lot of work. The final thing we have to remember is that Splyce did end the series 3-0, a very clean performance from them, and definitely something we need to look at coming into the semi-finals, because Splyce are looking better than expected at this point.
Looking scary, and that also means we have to say goodbye to Rocket. Their playoff run ends today, but Splyce is still in the race, and they'll be going up against G2 Esports for a spot in the final. You said it already, Colt. They're scary. They look great. How much of a chance do they have versus G2?
So I think this matchup is going to be very, very close. But what we have to understand as well is that G2 has the advantage of seeing what Splyce played in the quarterfinals. But the way Splyce was playing and the way I initially thought it would go, I think this is going to be a matchup that I don't even know how it's going to go. I'm just super excited to see it. I think it's going to come down to who is better prepared on the day.
And possibly Kobe, who also played with you when you were in Splyce and played against G2 in the summer finals of 2016. Maybe he can avenge you for G2 knocking you out back then.
Definitely a lot of pride on the line here. And what's interesting to me is that we have Wanda on one side and we have Kobe on the other side. And I think both of these guys really want to beat each other. So I'm just excited for the match.
We'll see. That's next week. Today, though, we have another fantastic quarterfinal coming up. Vitality versus H2K. And for Vitality, the split was a lot of back and forth. It started off fantastic. A lot of wins at the top of the tables, but it was quite up and down from there out.
Yeah, I think that middle portion of the split is actually what concerns me for Vitality today. The fact that after they lost one game, they weren't able to bounce straight back means that I'm slightly worried that if they lose the first or second game to H2K, their emotions might drop and they might not be able to make the comeback they'd want.
Well, always dangerous to talk about the emotions, but for them, the proof has been in the pudding. They went on a quite long losing streak after losing those initial games. We'll see how that translates today, Colt. How do you think Vitality can do in a best-of-5 setting?
So even though it's kind of like a rookie squad, they have been playing, four of them have been playing together for some time now and have been playing best-of-5s qualifying for the LCS. And on the other hand, we also have Yamato Cannon, who is quite experienced coach in best-of-5. So I think they're going to be completely fine for the best-of-5 setup. And I think we will see some crazy stuff for them today.
We'll see. It'll be a formidable opponent. They are up against H2K. H2K, they look to be out of the race for playoffs when the spring split started. They couldn't rack up any wins, but they pulled off a gigantic turnaround. Medic, run us through the timeline of H2K in spring.
What a turnaround it was, because if you look at those first 4 weeks, they were just absolutely losing every single match. In week 3, they made their first substitution. They benched Santorin, they brought Cadril into the jungle, and then Selfie came in for that mid lane.
Yeah, we were asking questions, what can H2K do to turn this around? And it was a really good move from the organizations to say, listen, we just have to change members up, otherwise it's not going to work.
Yeah, but they still kept losing after this initial change. So for week 5, they decided to change things up a little bit more. They brought in the veteran jungler Shook, who did definitely have a big impact on the team.
Yeah, and with the additions of Shook and Selfie, I think we really saw a team that was playing well together. And both Selfie and Shook were playing more aggressive, taking more initiative in the game, and that kind of led to other people stepping up as well, because suddenly they're drawing more attention and then other people can start stepping up, like Sheriff, for example.
Yeah, Sheriff was one of the key players that stepped up for them. Their rookie AD carry had a bit of hype around him coming into the start of the split, but didn't really perform. As soon as Shook and Selfie came into the team, Sheriff was unlocked. He had that incredible performance versus Giants in the base defense when he got that quadra kill.
Yeah, and when you look at the whole split of H2K, that base defense and that turnaround versus Giants, feels like it really was the turning point. The momentum change for H's Giants feels like it really was the turning point, the momentum change for H2K to take their destiny in their own hands and eventually end up in playoffs.
And we saw a Sheriff that suddenly started playing way more aggressive, especially in the team fights, and that is really where we have seen Sheriff shine. So I'm looking at Sheriff today. I think he's a core of why H2K is winning.
And what a turnaround it was for H2K. 1-7 without Shook, 7-3 with Shook, taking 5th place in the playoffs. It's a great performance by them, but we need to see a little bit more if they're going to get to semifinals.
Well, fantastic that they got to quarterfinals, and now they're up versus Vitality. We want to take a look at some key players in this Vitality versus H2K matchup, and we're going to start in the mid lane from Vitality with Jizuke, the Italian stallion. And more specifically, we wanted to take a look at how he does when he gets a lot of attention from his jungler, Gilius, in the early game, as opposed to when he doesn't get that much attention.
And as you can see, when he's got above average jungle proximity, he gets almost, well, more than twice as many kills and assists at the 15-minute mark, and he wins his lane. He has a high CS differential, so his lane is a lot stronger when Gilius is around.
Yeah, and what I think is really important about this is that H2K doesn't only play for his own lane. He's super good at transitioning this into other sides of the map. We have seen him several times play Rise, where he rotates to side lanes, gets other people ahead, and this is kind of what he wants to do when he gets the lead. So I like when they get H2K the lead, and I think this is where they shine.
Well, this is also why H2K is an integral part to Vitality's success throughout the split, and seeing how Selfie has been very consistent for H2K, this is going to be a hotly contested matchup. I do also want to look at the bottom lane, the two rookie AD carries. Sheriff up versus Mini Trupax. To me, Sheriff has really been the shining star maybe of all the rookies in the final weeks of the split. Mini Trupax does not feel as consistent to me.
I think it's a little bit unfair to say he's inconsistent. He's consistently average. Like, he never really stands out. He never really pushes the boundaries. He is going to hate that. And every time we talk to him, he says, why don't you group me with, you know, Sheriff and Upset? Because Sheriff and Upset make these standout plays. Once or twice, Mini Trupax has made a big play for his team, but it's never as much as some of these other carries.
Yes, and we can definitely say that both of them are consistently solid in the laning phase. But where I think Sheriff really stands out is in the mid and late game team fights, where we see some AD carries pop off, and he's one of them. And I haven't really seen that from Mini Trupax. So I'm looking at both AD carries to see who is going to be the clutch guy today.
Well, for all the players and both teams, there is so much on the line. Getting to the semifinals and getting to play versus Fnatic for a shot at the final in Copenhagen is fantastic, but they'll have to beat their opponents. And I know that you guys have predicted H2K to win. Almost everyone I talked to, of everyone I've seen, has H2K pegged as the winners. Now, I don't know where that came from. Why is it that you guys are so convinced that H2K takes this?
Yeah, so basically, I think it's going to be a very close matchup. But what swung it for me in terms of H2K is that I haven't seen Vitality be able to close out games as well as they should be able to when they get the early leads. And this is really where H2K shines. And then I think Sheriff is just going to do more in teamfights than Mini Trupax. And that is why I think H2K is going to end up winning.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a 3-1 to H2K. I actually think it's more to do with that emotional aspect. I think if H2K and Mini Trupax and Gilius lose a game, maybe one of them makes a misplay, that's really where they're going to fall apart. And I also really respect the drafting power of Veteran and Kelsey on the H2K side. So I think across the best of 5, H2K have the edge.
That's fair. When we predicted it last night on the post-game lobby and all predicted H2K, Gilius took to Twitter to call us all effing clowns. So he'll be wanting to show something on the Rift in this quarterfinal.
Let's hope the Alpha Squad shows up today.
Let's see. Well, we also want you guys to take to Twitter and tell us who you think will win this series and why. Hit us up at LL Esports on Twitter with your answer. And as always, use that hashtag the EU LCS. Not the EU LCS, hashtag EU LCS. Just so you know. Now, as we get ready to kick off tonight's quarterfinal, Medic, you had a chance to catch up with Yamato Cannon earlier. Let's see what he had to say.
Thank you so much for joining me, Yamato, of course, the coach of Team Vitality. Now, thank you so much for joining me, Yamato, of course, the coach of Team Vitality. Now, I want to start off quickly by looking back at the split. You guys started off very strongly. You were in first position for a while. You ended up in 4th. Is that a disappointment after your early good start?
I'm very happy. I think our goal was to reach playoffs, and I know that we can be very powerful in best of 5. I think we're the team that showed the most diversity in what we can play, and I think that's a massive strength coming into best of 5. So regardless if we have to play another best of 5 or not, it doesn't matter for us. It's just some extra practice on stage.
So have you had to change much coming into the best of 5 meta? Are there many adaptations you've had to make as a team?
I think most of the adaptation is things that most other teams do, is just in terms of practice. We do more of interval practice to make sure that we are ready for the exhaustion, and also in preparation for how we adjust in draft. We're trying to make sure that the talks between games are very short. And on top of that, I think our entire preparation throughout the split has been in preparation for these best of 5s. So it was a big part of the diversity we showed in draft. It wasn't about just picking up simple wins. It was about practicing a difficult way of winning the game, which will be very relevant in best of 5s.
Another thing that's really relevant is confidence, and we talk about momentum all the time. Vitality and yourself are being quite outspoken on Twitter, very confident coming into the series. Do you think if you lose 1 or 2 of the early games, that might be a detrimental blow to your likelihood of getting through?
Not at all. I think my philosophy has always been step by step, and we just look at it as business. And in business, there's no room for emotion. And this is something we've also worked on big time throughout the split, because they're emotional guys. And if you put that in the right place, it's very powerful. But if it's in the wrong place, it can be very destructional as well. But we've worked very hard to make sure it's in the right place. And looking at the entire playoff thing, I think we're the only team that can defeat Fnatic. So I think that's what we're heading for, and we're the hope to beat Fnatic for all the Fnatic haters.
We'll have to see if that is the semi-final. Good luck today in the quarters. I hope for an incredible series.
Good to hear. The hope for all the Fnatic haters. Well, thank you, man. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daniel Dracos, here with Martin DeFisciolonga to bring you this quarterfinal between Team Vitality and H2K.
And I am very excited because both teams are very outspoken about how they're going to destroy each other. It's going to be easy. 3-0s left and right. I just want to see what happens now.
I just want to see if both teams are predicting a 3-0. I hope it means we get 5 games, DeFiscio. I hope they're both...
Or 6 games.
Both.
No.
Best of 7, new League of Legends
Why
format?
not? If it's really good games,